Hello students, welcome back to our channel. Today we will cover crop weed competition. In the previous lecture of weed management, we have already covered what is weed, what are the harmful effects of weeds, and what are the beneficial effects also. So weeds are generally they are unwanted in our crop field. Why they are unwanted? Because they compete with crops for different resources what is available in our field. So what is this competition? Why it is happening? What is this competition? Competition is generally it is the struggle for survival and continued existence. Suppose someone or some organism, particular organism that want to survive, so it has to compete with other organism for different resources, for different food material. Suppose in your home also you have four children, brothers and sisters, so you always fight with each other, right? You always fight for what? For different toys, for different foods, for everything. So from that you can also relate what is competition. Competition, when it is happening, when competition happens, suppose the resources is unlimited, suppose you are fighting with your brother and sister for food. So if the food is unlimited, then there is no need to fight. When you fight for the food, if the food is limited and you require your requirement, your want is more. So competition doesn't start if two organisms demand different growth factor. Again, suppose you want some rasgulla and your brother wants biscuit, so whether there will be competition? No. If both you and your brother, both of you wants rasgulla, or both of you need a biscuit, then there will be a competition. Okay, so first point for competition is both the organism, here in this case weed and crop, they both require similar resources, right? They both require nitrogen, both require phosphorus, they both require carbon dioxide. So in that case there will be competition. So if the requirement is different, then there will be no competition. This is the first point. Then competition doesn't start if combined demand is less than supply. So for competition to happen, your combined demand must be greater than the resource available. Okay, the combined demand, suppose one organism is A and another organism is B, they require A amount of resource and B amount of resource respectively, and their combined demand must be greater than the available resource, that is AB. Suppose available resource is AB, that must be less than the combined demand of the organism, that the input requirement, right? So in crop weed ecosystem, what is ecosystem? Ecosystem is the combination of the living organism present in ecology or in that area, particular area, and their interaction with the surrounding physical environment. Okay, so biotic environment plus abiotic environment, whatever the phenomena that is happening in every moment, that is ecosystem. Okay, system means any two interacting things that is present in the closed boundary and how they interact with the surrounding, that is system. So here ecosystem means that consists of living beings. And in crop weed ecosystem, what are those organisms, crop and weed, how they interact with each other and how they interact with the surrounding, that is crop weed ecosystem. So crop weed ecosystem competition exists for what? Competition exists for different resources like nutrient, moisture, solar radiation, carbon dioxide, oxygen, space, etc. Okay, so where competition for nutrient will happen, that mostly seen in irrigated land, because in irrigated land there is enough resources and other factors are might be optimum, so there will be vigorous growth and there will be the competition for mainly for nutrient you can find. Then moisture, for moisture where the competition happen, in mostly dry land where the rainfall is less and the soil is deprived of moisture, so there for moisture the competition will be more, right? Then before coming to competition, let me tell you some interference. Okay, what is some interactions? What is interaction? What do you understand by interaction? Interaction means whether there is any maybe disturbances or anything happening between two organisms when they live together. So in biological there are different biological interactions present if two organisms reside with each other, two organism is in cohabitation. Means whenever two organisms they present at a particular place, then there are different types of interaction you can find. So here why we are talking about interaction, because here in our crop weed ecosystem, crop as well as weed, they live together. So there are different types of interaction when two organisms live together, right? So mostly, suppose two organism is living together and there is no interaction, no effect on each organism. Suppose there is no effect, means I am assigning it 0. If no organism is harmful and there is no effect, harmful effect as well as beneficial effect on both the organism, then that is we called naturalism, okay, or neutralism or naturalism. Then if there is negative effect, if two organisms they are living together and there is negative effect on each organism, then that is called competition. If there is positive effect on both organisms, so that will be another case. If there will be positive effect on both the organism, then that is called mutualism, okay. Then if there is positive effect on one organism and there is no effect on other organism, that is called commensalism. If there is negative or no effect on one organism and negative effect on other organism, then that is called amensalism. If there is positive effect on one organism and negative effect on other organism, then that is called parasitism. So these are different forms of biological interaction. Among these biological interaction in crop weed ecosystem, we can mostly find three type of interaction. One is competition, okay. One is competition, negative effect on both organism. One is amensalism. What is that? One organism will not suffer, another organism having negative effect. Then one is parasitism. One organism will have positive effect, that is the parasite. Then host plant, that will have negative effect. So these three types of interaction mostly you can find in crop weed ecosystem. So whenever we are talking about crop weed ecosystem, there must be some interference, presence of some interference, okay. What is interference? Interference means disturbance. Suppose you can find in news there is interference in or someone talking there is interference in our network or signals. So that interference means disturbance in our signal or in network, right? So interference is the detrimental effect of one plant on another, okay. It is the detrimental effect of one plant on another. So interference includes both competition and allelopathy. Interference include both competition as well as allelopathy. Competition is indirect in nature, okay. In competition, both crop and weed, they do not directly fight with each other. They uptake the available resources there, okay. Whatever resources available there, they uptake that resources, and like that they affect each other. So competition is indirect in nature, okay. And allelopathy, what is allelopathy? Whenever two organism or two plant like crop and weed, they live together, one plant is secreting certain chemical that is called allelochemical, and that chemical has direct effect on the surrounding plant. So that is allelopathy, and this allelopathy is direct in nature because the plant is directly secreting that chemical, and that is harmful for the surrounding, and those chemicals are known as allelochemicals. So crop weed interference can be competition, it can be allelopathy. Then some general principles of crop weed competition. Let's see some general principles of crop weed competition. Crop weed competition, when it will be more, whether it will be more in earlier growth stage or vegetative stage or at reproductive stage. Crop weed competition will be more serious when the crop is at young stage. When you fight with your brother for this food and toys at the younger stage, right? So that is different in case of human being, but crop plants, they require generally more nutrient for their growth, for their vigorous growth at the earlier stage, right? And after the vegetative stage, it requires very less nutrient and the growth is not that vigorous, right? So the competition will be obviously more in younger stage, right? Then competition is likely to be greater between plants having similar morphology and growth behavior. Okay, so if the morphology and growth behavior of the crop plant as well as associated weed is similar, then there will be more competition. Why? Have you ever seen one wrestler having 55 kg category, they compete with 95 kg category? There will be no competition at all. The 95 kg category wrestler will definitely easily destroy or lose the, win the 55 kg category. Okay, so always there will be more competition if if the morphology as well as growth behavior is similar, because they require similar amount of resources and similar resources, right? Then crops as well as weeds varying in their competitive ability based on their species, based on their genus, they will vary. Their competing ability will be varies. Okay. Suppose for example, let's see the winter cereals like wheat, barley, and oat. So among these three winter cereal, if I say competitive ability will be more in barley, because it secretes some alkaloid, gramine alkaloid, as well as the growth of the root system in the earlier vegetative stage is comparatively higher. So barley can compete more with weeds than other winter grains, right? So like that, suppose groundnut, if we say the spreading type groundnut, they can be more competitive than the bunch type groundnut. And as well as based on the variety also, their competing ability will be different. Okay, so our next general principle is there is always a critical period of crop weed competition. What is this critical period of crop weed competition? The shortest span in the life cycle of a crop where the crop weed competition is more, and if we are managing the weeds, if we are controlling the weeds at that particular time, the shortest period, then we can achieve maximum output, crop output. And if we are not controlling weeds at that particular time, then our crop loss will be maximum. Okay, so that is the principle of crop weed competition, critical period of crop weed competition in a crop. Then weed competition is always indirect in nature. I have already discussed, because they do not fight with each other directly, and they limit the resource availability for each other by taking up those resources, right? Then plant can compete both above and underground. Okay, we'll talk later on what is this above ground and underground competition. Then competition can be intraspecific, it can be intraspecific, it can be interspecific, it can be intergeneric also. Okay, so next thing is nature of crop weed competition and factors for which competition occurs. We can find that competition can be for nutrient, competition can be for water, competition can be for light, competition can be for space also. So for nutrient, weeds uptake nutrient faster and accumulate more nutrient than crops. Why competition happens for nutrient? Because they require the similar nutrients. Okay, both crop and weed, they require the similar resources, right? Similar nutrients for their growth. But weeds generally they uptake the nutrients faster, as well as they accumulate nutrient at a higher concentration, at a larger concentration than weeds. Okay, so suppose for example Amaranthus viridis, one weed is Amaranthus viridis, it accumulates around 3.16% nitrogen and 4.5% potassium in its tissue, whereas if you say rice plant, wheat plant, those we are cultivating generally, so they only contain 1 to 1.5% nitrogen, right? Then Digitaria sanguinalis, it contains around 3.36% P2O5. Chenopodium, our rice and wheat plant, they contain only 0.2 to 0.4% of phosphorus. Chenopodium album, it contains 4.34% potassium, whereas our rice and wheat plant, they only accumulate 1 to 1.5% of potassium. Portulaca quadrifolia, it also contains more than 4% of potassium. Sectaria lutescens, it contains 585 ppm of zinc, whereas our rice and wheat plant only 100 and 150 ppm of zinc. Why weeds are harmful for crop? Because they accumulate the nutrient at a faster pace, and they accumulate the nutrient at a larger quantity than the crop plant. And we do not have any economic value we get from the weeds. Okay, also. So first nutrient to be limiting is nitrogen, as required more in vegetative stage. Okay, nitrogen is requirement of nitrogen in plant is more at vegetative stage, so first depletion will be for that only. Then competition for P and K after plant mature and have extensive overlapping root. Okay, when competition for P and K happen, when there is extensive overlapping root, means below ground, and after the maturation, during the maturation or after the maturation, there will be competition for P and K. This is about nutrient. Then competition for water. Water is the main resource that is necessary for everything, every aspect of plant, right? Weeds mostly demand more water than crop. Okay, weeds mostly demand more water than crop. What is that? If we say unit, what is that unit? That is called transpiration ratio. That means, what is transpiration ratio? Transpiration ratio means how much water that is a plant transpires, how much water a plant transpires for 1 kg or 1 unit of dry matter, for 1 unit of dry matter production or 1 kg of dry matter production. How much liters of water a plant transpires, right? Are you getting what is transpiration ratio? How much liters of water or how much unit of water a plant transpires for 1 kg of dry matter production, that is transpiration ratio. So weeds generally demand more water than crops. Like sorghum, suppose sorghum, the transpiration ratio is 394. Suppose Tephrosia purpurea, the transpiration ratio is 1108. Sorghum is a plant or crop. Tephrosia purpurea and Tridex procumbens, they are weeds. Tridex procumbens, they require 402 liters of water for 1 kg dry matter production, right? Like that, most of the weeds, they require higher water requirement, like higher transpiration, or their transpiration ratio is higher than crop plant. Okay, then competition for light. How competition for light happens? Light is the main source of photosynthesis, so it provides energy for photosynthetic activity. If one plant covers the canopy of other plant, then how light can penetrate to that covered plant, right? So if the covered plant do not get light, how it will photosynthesize, right? So light again characterized by what is the duration of the light, what is the intensity of the light, and what is the quality of light. It will be talked later on, or you can find the solar radiation lecture in our YouTube channel also. Then the site for competition for light are leaves and height of maximum leaf area. Okay, then competition for space. Okay, it is generally said that competition for space, but actual competition is for carbon dioxide, the gas carbon dioxide, and oxygen. Generally, if we see at the canopy level, what is needed for photosynthesis, what is the resource for photosynthesis? The prime resource or prime substrate for photosynthesis is carbon dioxide. So who can use the carbon dioxide better, whether it is crop or whether it is weed? It is based on their photosynthetic type. Okay, which type of plant is that, whether it is C3 plant, whether it is C4 plant. So in limited carbon dioxide availability, which plant will perform better? It will be C4 plant, because they have one carbon dioxide concentrating mechanism or carbon dioxide concentrating enzyme, that is called PEP carboxylase. Okay, C4 plant, they contain this enzyme PEP carboxylase. So at a very limited amount of carbon dioxide availability and a very limited available carbon dioxide, they can accumulate that carbon dioxide and they can use it for photosynthetic activity. Whereas the C3 plant, they can perform better in higher or elevated carbon dioxide level. Suppose in our global warming scenario or climate change scenario, the carbon dioxide is rising. So in that case, C3 plant will perform better because the carbon dioxide is maximum. Okay, the level is higher. But C4, the carbon dioxide saturation is less, that is around 100 ppm. So it is already saturated for C4 crops. But C3 crop, the saturation level is 1000 to 1200 ppm. So there is chance of increasing the productivity in the coming years. But what is the limiting factor in C3 crop? If the temperature is rising, the photorespiration is more in C3 crop. Okay, then they cannot sustain in hardier moisture stress conditions. So due to hydrological cycle imbalance, so there is more moisture stress. So in that case, C4 plant will perform better, right? So in limited carbon dioxide ability, whenever we are talking about competition, there is the resources limited. Okay, in the canopy area, the carbon dioxide is limited. So in that case, C4 plant will perform better. So why I am talking about C4 plant and C3 plant? Because in our crop field, most of the crops like rice, wheat, most of the pulses, they are C3 in nature, whereas the weeds are generally C4 in nature in our crop field. So they are better their adaptability will be better than crop plant. Okay. Then what are the factors affecting crop weed competition? What are the factors affecting crop weed competition? So generally, if we divide the factors, like suppose one is factor of competition or whatever resources, based on that of what type of competition is there. What are the factors affecting the crop weed competition? First one is what are the resources. Okay. Second one is the inherent plant characteristics. Third one is environment and crop management factor. Okay. So let's discuss what are the factors. Okay. One is above ground factor, one is below ground factor, one is both above and below ground factor. Above ground factor, what are the factor like for which competition happens? Sunlight as well as carbon dioxide. Below ground, nutrient, water and oxygen, and both below and above ground for space. Okay. Clear all these points. Then what are the plant and weed characteristics? Okay, weed characteristics, like which type of species is there in our crop weed ecosystem. What is the density of the weed? That means how many numbers of weeds are there in one unit or 1 meter square area. Then what is the dry weight of the weed? Then weed architecture, like what is the growth type, what is the habit, what is branching, what is the root system, how the root system is developed. So that is the weed characteristics. Then crop characteristics, which variety we are growing, what is the species of the crop, what is the density of the crop, seedling vigor, plant architecture like growth habit, branches, tiller, root system. So these are the some of the characteristics of crops and weeds. They affect the crop weed competition. Then our environment character as well as crop management character. Soil properties, like what is the fertility level, what is the moisture status, soil physiochemical properties of that system. Then climate variation, like temperature, rainfall, relative humidity, sunlight, how they are and how they are affecting the both weeds and crop plant. The selection pressure, like biotic stress and abiotic stress, they both be for weed as well as crop, and how they are acclimatizing or how they are coping with those biotic and abiotic stress. Then human or crop management factor, like tillage time method, then depth of planting, cropping pattern, fertilization, irrigation, insect disease control. These are the management factor, and they affect ultimately the crop weed competition. Then in weed factor, like weed species, as I said, this will also affect the crop weed competition. So based on which type of weed is more severely the growth is more severe, the spreading is more severe, that can okay. So severe competition by weeds having similar morphology as and with crop plant. Okay, so that weed having similar morphology with the associated crop plant, that will have more severe competition than the other. Okay, then weeds having greater plasticity in growth or greater ability to compensate for space, that will compete more. Then C4 weeds can better competitive than C3 weeds. Okay, we have already covered that C4 weed, they require less water, they can sustain in a limited carbon dioxide situation, so they can better compete with C3 plants. Okay, because of that less carbon dioxide saturation point, less transpiration ratio, and having more water use efficiency. Then weed density and dry weight, how they affect the crop weed competition. Weed density versus crop yield, the graph is inverse sigmoidal and curvilinear. Okay, like this. Okay, this is the yield, this is the density. If the density is increasing, then there will be the yield will decrease at a inverse curvilinear model. Okay, like this. Okay, then if we say weed dry weight and crop yield, then that is linear and inverse relationship. Okay, what is that? How the graph looks like this. Okay, linear and inverse. This is yield and this is the weed dry weight. Suppose weed dry weight is increasing, then there will be decrease in yield linearly and inversely, right? Then crop factor. How crop factor affecting crop weed competition? The crop species, like as I said, barley is more competitive than other winter cereal due to earlier root proliferation and gramine alkaloid. Sorghum is more competitive than other crops. due to allelopathic effect of weeds on weeds due to secretion of durin or HCN. Then Paul says they are having smoothing effect on surrounding weed because they cover the surrounding or they spread the foliage earlier, so they can also compete with the croplands better. Then crop variety and cultivar, it also affects the crop weed competition. Like TMV3, it is a spreading type groundnut that is having more competitive ability than the bunch type groundnut. Then crop density, if the density of the crop will be higher, then weed density will be, weed dry weight will be lower because they will suppress the weeds. Okay, but what will be the problem? There will be intra crop plant competition. Okay, we'll talk later on. Then plant architecture, if the crop plant height is less, then it will be suppressed by the weed canopy, and if the crop plant height is more, then that will suppress the weeds. Okay. Then crop management factor, suppose late planting of wheat in December than normal, that is the normal planting is October 15 to November. If the wheat is planted late, then there will be less infestation of Phalaris minor, that is one associated with of wheat plant. Then transplanted rice will have less problem of weeds than direct seeded rice. Then closer spacing, crop rotation and mulching, that it will reduce the infestation of weeds. Then critical period of crop weed competition, we were discussing. What is the critical period? That's the shortest lifespan in a crop period. If we are controlling the weed, if we are managing the weed, we will have greater yield. And if you are not managing weed at that particular time, at that critical period, then the loss will be maximum. Okay, so this is the definition. Weeds are not equally damaging all through the crop growing period. The early season and competition is the most detrimental effect. Then thumb rule, what is the thumb rule of critical crop weed competition? That is the first 1/4 to 1/3 period we must control the weeds. That is called a critical period. So why not before 1/4 day? Suppose let me give you an example. Suppose one rice plant that is of 100 days duration. So what will be the critical crop weed competition according to this thumb rule? That is 25 to 33 days. Yes. So if we are managing the weeds between this, then there will be maximum, we can get the maximum yield. And if we are not managing weeds at that particular time, then our loss will be maximum. So why not before 25 days? Why not after 33 days? Because before 25 days, there will be the crop plants as well as weeds, they are very tender stage, right? So their combined demand and their competition will not exist at that time, because the resources is maximum and there is combined demand of crop and weeds that is less than the available resources. And why not after 33 days? Because at that particular time, crop plant has grown to a certain level and it can compete with the weeds. Okay, so the losses will be minimum if we are managing the weeds at the earlier stage, and if we are letting the crop plant grow vigorously, then supplying it with different resources, then the crop plant growth will be vigorous and it will itself it can compete with the weeds. The crop weed competition varies with the crops, varieties, location, season, year, etc. Okay, suppose there is a high altitude crop, so the growing season is longer, so the critical crop weed competition period will be also longer. Like for rice, the critical crop weed competition period is 15 to 30 days after sowing. Maize 30 to 60 days after sowing. Green gram, it is 15 to 30 days after sowing. Sugarcane, it is 30 to 60 days after sowing. Then there are certain threshold of competition. One is period threshold, quality or quantity or density threshold, ecological threshold. What are they? At what period we must control the weed? At what period the competition is maximum and optimum, and when we must go for the weeding activity, like, right? So these are certain threshold. In quantity and density threshold also you can find damage threshold, economic threshold, and action threshold. Actually at this particular time, suppose period threshold, at what time we must control the weed. Then quantity or density threshold, at what density of weed in the crop ecosystem we must control the weed, like damage threshold. At what damage level we must control the weed. Economic threshold, at what economic loss level and at what economic point we can control the wind, then action threshold, when we can control the wind, then ecological threshold, at what ecological disturbance level we have to control the wind. So these are the threshold of competition. So it was all about crop weight competition. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in the comment section, or you can drop your query in our Telegram channel also. And if you have any other topic to discuss, then you can let me know in the comment section. Why I am teaching like this in the opening the PDF and underlying that, because you can take notes by pausing the video at any moment, if you want to write, or if you want to note them down. Okay, so see you in the next lecture. Till then, bye bye, have a great day.